Naples now to print. Glendora's counterclaims, Glendora's application for a warrant, arrest warrant on Kenneth H. Mildworm, and Glendora's answer to the lies that he told in that so-called complaint, and Glendora's a copy of Glendora's record of the incident as incorporated in her complaint, her lawsuit against him, and that was submitted on March. What do you know about the speed of light? The professor said. And the student said, nothing, sir, except that it gets here in the morning. And teenagers really up a home, they never turn out the light. And Abraham Lincoln once walked 9 miles to return a book, and we honored him by closing a library on his birthday. Little League is where the kid on the mound has 5 basic pitches, a fastball, a slow ball, a curve, a sinker, and one that you hope gets to the plate. We are reporting to you on Kenneth H. Mildworm, L-D-W-O-R-M. Very quickly, a synopsis. On February 18th, we went into the United States Courthouse at Uniondale to go see the clerk about 2 lawsuits that we have in that courthouse. And I took all of the metal out of my pocket, all of my pockets, and I put it in the tray. And there was a recorder, and I was told that the recorder couldn't go into the courthouse, that it would have to be left out front. And I asked for a receipt, and I was told we don't give receipts. And Mildworm took the recorder, slammed it down on the desk, and said, "You're not going to get a receipt." And then Mildworm said, "You will have to leave the courthouse, or you can't do that." Because I was there by Rule 77, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, to conduct business in the court. And there was no grounds to make me leave. And he grabbed me. He grabbed me from behind, and you saw all the bruises and all over the place. And then Franklin came up to protect his wife. Telephone calls because her recorder kept going out, and we made 7 telephone teenagers really brighten up a home, they never turn out the lights. And Abraham Lincoln once walked 9 miles to return a book, and we honor him by closing the library on his birthday. Little League is where the kid on the mound has 5 basic pitches, a fastball, a slow ball, a curve, a sinker, and one that you hope gets to the plate. We are reporting to you on Kenneth H. Mildworm, M-I-L-D-W-O-R-M. Very quickly, a synopsis. On February 18th, we went into the United States Courthouse at Uniondale to go see the clerk about 2 lawsuits that we have in that courthouse. And I took all of the metal out of my pocket, and all of my pockets. I put it in the tray, and there was a recorder, and I was told that the recorder couldn't go into the courthouse, that it would have to be left out front. And I asked for a receipt, and I was told we don't give receipts. And Mildworm took the recorder, slammed it down on the desk, and says, "You're not going to get a receipt." And then Mildworm said, "You will have to leave the courthouse." Well, you can't do that. I was there by Rule 77, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, to conduct business in the court. And there was no grounds to make me leave. And he grabbed me. He grabbed me from behind. And you saw all the bruises and all over the place. And then Franklin came up to protect his wife. Franklin is 78 years old. I am 68 years old. And Mildworm drew off and punched Franklin in the jaw. Franklin landed on the floor, and I landed. This was between 9:25 and 9:40 a.m. Ended up when Franklin got up. And then we got to the courthouse. Newsday called us, and that night, February 18th, 1997, Arnold Donovan, and left a message on our recorder that they wanted to write a story. The name of the reporter was Pat W. something, a woman. And we made 7 telephone calls because her recorder kept going out. And we made 7 telephone calls to her telling her this whole story as to what happened. Not a word appeared in Newsday. She never called back after 5 calls to her, plus all the sequence calls. On Friday the 21st, we called all around Nassau County to see who was going to help us. We wanted Bruiser Ken H. Mildworm jailed and fined, and we wanted to press charges against him for criminal assault. And we called all around, and nobody would help us. The 2nd Precinct wouldn't help us, the 3rd Precinct wouldn't help us, the FBI wouldn't help us, the marshals wouldn't help us. Insert, going back to the incident, a marshal went by, and I spoke to him, and he says, "What do you want me to do, take you downstairs and lock you up?" This is because I asked for a receipt for my property. I thought that was only American, that you get a receipt for your property. And I said, "What is your name?" And he said, "Rick." Okay, now coming back. So Newsday never called up and never wrote a story. And nobody else would help us. And so finally, Friday the 21st, we called the New York Attorney General, we called the District Attorney, we called FBI in Manhattan, we called FBI in Melville. Nobody could help us. Friday the 21st, we went down and filed a charge against this brute, Kenneth H. Mildworm, and we asked for his arrest. And the week of, let's see, the week of February 25th, we never heard from the 1st Precinct. All the whole week, we never heard. And then on Monday, March the 3rd at 6 p.m., we heard from the FBI, and we were so happy because at least here somebody was going to protect us and stand up for our rights. And the man who called was Thomas Kwiatkowski. Kwiatkowski. And he wanted to make an appointment with us. So we made an appointment with him for 2 p.m. Wednesday. And he said, it'll be at the Uniondale Courthouse, but you don't have to go through the front door. We have a room, a special room down at the side door entrance. And we can go in there and talk. Also that Monday there was a message on our recorder, and it was indistinguishable. And it wasn't until Wednesday that we found out that it was the first time that Detective Ray had called and he left his number, and he will never make it as a radio announcer, believe me. The enunciation was just impossible. It took 3 days to decipher it. Okay, on Tuesday we were in editing all day in Hicksville, a chat with Glendora. Wednesday, we got a telephone call from Kwiatkowski that he was not able to make the appointment. Don't come at 2 p.m. He wouldn't be there. He had to go to Brooklyn. Wednesday night, he called again, and I said, let's get this thing going. And he says, when can you come again? I asked him, by the way, if he could come to Westchester. He said no. And you should hear this recording of Kwiatkowski. You should hear it. Kwiatkowski. Impossible. You should hear all these recordings, 3 of them so far. And I said 9 o'clock Thursday morning, tomorrow morning. He says, make it 10. Okay. Okay, so we drive to Uniondale on Thursday morning, March the 6th. You saw the videotape that I took of the Uniondale courthouse outside of the, quite a long ways from the courthouse because you couldn't get close to it, and the wind was about 35 to 40 miles per hour, so I had to quit videotaping. And then we went toward the courthouse, and Kwiatkowski came and got us, and he took us down this long curved driveway, must have been 2 basements below, way underground, and he opened this great formidable door, and he got us both in, and I had said to Kwiatkowski, I have a witness that I want to be with us at all times. And he says, no, we can't allow that. And I says, well, then I want to record it on audio tape. And he says, okay, you can record it on audio tape. And as we're going through the door, I said, my witness is going to be late. That would be Dominic, because he's taking his granddaughter to school. And he will be along later. And so as we go through the door slams. Kwiatkowski gets out, flashes an FBI badge, tells me to sit down in that chair, and tells me and Franklin that we are under arrest. We were ambushed by the Fraudulent Bureau of Investigation. We were ambushed. Now, isn't that America? Is this a police state, or is this the United States of America? And he slams the paper down in front of me, and I start to read it, and another FBI agent snatches it from me. I didn't know what I was charged with. How can you, first of all, this is a false arrest, and it said the United States of America versus Franklin, or Glendora and Franklin Buell. And I said, you have that backwards. He says, no, you're the one. And we had no reasons given to us why we were arrested and why we were charged. Is this Uniondale, Nassau County, Long Island? Or is this some police state somewhere? Is this Nazi Germany? Or is this old KGB Russia? Where are we? And Franklin was separated from me, and that's not right. Franklin is 78 years old. We've been married 42 years. Franklin needs his wife's care. Glendora needs her husband's care. And he was snatched from me and taken into another room. And then began reading my rights. These are people who, under the guise, were going to help us. We're the injured and the innocent. I exercise my rights. When we go to Brooklyn this afternoon, we'll tell the judge that you wouldn't cooperate with us. We had, and I put my recorder, my little tiny recorder, I put it in the basket, and there were about 5 or 6 people there. Now you understand that they are not marshals. They are Pinkertons. They are nothing but hired former policemen. Who want revenue and who want extra income. And so we were told that I couldn't take the recorder into the courthouse, and I said, and the recorder was taken from me, and I said, I want a receipt for that. And I was told we don't give receipts, and I questioned why. And this husky, I found out later that his name is Ken. He's about 50 years old. He's about 190 pounds. He's muscular, and he has sort of dark blue eyes, and he's balding, and his hair is brownish, and he doesn't have any sideburns. His hair is cut straight across. And he took the recorder and he slammed it down on the desk, and he says, "You're not going to get a receipt." Isn't this great for the United States Marshals and the United States District Court, for the United States Marshal Service? Now, this guy was a Pinkerton. He slammed that recorder down on his desk, and that's a $150 electronic instrument. And then the next thing we knew, there were 5 or 6 of them there, and they were telling us that we had to leave the courthouse. Well, you can't do that. You cannot close the court to the public. Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 77, says the court shall be open, and they can't be closed to the public. And so the next thing I know, I'm standing near the metal detector, and the next thing I know, I felt somebody grab me from behind, here, and you've seen the bruises, here, and you've seen the bruises here. And then Franklin came between me and this Ken, who really is not fit for the job. He shouldn't be on the job. He just doesn't have what it takes, and he lacks all of the things that it takes. And then Franklin came between us to protect his wife, and this Kenny draws off and hits Franklin in the cheek, socks him in the cheek. And Franklin's 78 years old, I'm 68 years old, and Franklin falls to the floor. In the meantime, I'm down on the floor, prone. And my hat is knocked off, my wig is knocked off, and I'm pretty sick all over, and of course multiple strains and muscles and hurts and aches and pain. And I lay on the floor, and then Franklin got up, and it was really a great scene to walk into a United States courthouse and see 2 senior citizens lying all over the floor. Now there were 4 witnesses. They were black people, and they were over to the right. I would like those 4 witnesses to step forward. They were there at the beginning, and they were there at the end. And so there was another kinky-haired, gray-haired Pinkerton who had glasses, and then there was another younger one, and that one with the glasses, kinky-haired, must have been about 65. And then there was another one who was, they don't wear any badges, you know, any insignia. They're supposed to wear blue coats and a little plastic thing that says United States Marshal Service, but remember, they're nothing but Pinkertons. They're just hired hands. And then there was another one, younger, who had black hair, a little bit longer than a crew cut, and a white shirt, and another one with a white shirt, and no insignia, no badges or anything. So it was brutality from the beginning to the end, and there isn't enough time to finish telling you about it. It'll have to be continued on Chapter 2, and Chapter 2 won't be seen in Woodbury. It will be seen in another cable system. We left at 9:40 a.m. We got the recorder back, and when I got the recorder back, I started recording. And I had a bad injury from the ear all the way down along the cheekbone to here. The legs were all hurt, and there was talk about calling an ambulance, but nobody did call an ambulance. And I had to go to Hicksville to edit. I sure would not have liked to. I would have liked to have recuperated from these wounds, but I had. Andrew Hersman was depending upon me. Then I had to get my own programs done, and you can't make up editing time. Editing time lost is lost forever. And I had to help somebody else with a program. So you heard the old expression, the show must go on. So I just had to go on. And by the time I got to Hicksville and started carrying in all of the equipment, it was pretty obvious that I didn't feel well, and it was obvious to Dominic, and it was obvious to everybody else. But I had to plug through the day. And that's going to end the time. We don't have any more time to tell you about it, and that's too bad. Sorry, you're not going to hear the end of it. You have to go to another cable company to hear it. Well, we called all over Nassau County to find somebody to help us, and nobody would help us. I reported it to the Chief Deputy Marshal in Eastern District, who was in Brooklyn, and because they have the Nassau and the Suffolk counties that's in their district. And his name is Parker, and I told him the whole story from beginning to end, and I said, what are you going to do about it? And he said, nothing. I really should play you that audio tape. It's a very, very bad record. And the United States is being ruined. And all of these wonderful things we tell you about through William Pisani's of the soldiers who died and gave their lives for America. This is a very, very sad thing to see these traitors to their country. And so this Parker, I said, what are you going to do about it? He said, nothing. He said, we're going to get a lawyer. And he advised me to get a lawyer. That'll be the day, right? And it's going to be one of the biggest civil rights suits that you've ever seen. The charges against them is that we were no threat to anybody, that we were there on business to the courts, they closed the courts to us. Franklin is 78, as I told you, and I'm 68. And to sock a 78-year-old man in the kisser and onto the floor is just inexplicable, and it's heinous. And then to knock the female senior citizen around like that is heinous, all over the fact that they don't give receipts. Now that's another charge against them. If I give you my property, I'm entitled to a receipt. I could come out of the clerk's office and say, may I have my recorder? And I could hear, what recorder? Oh, we don't know about any recorder. Now that's ridiculous. So we're going to sue the Eastern District on that basis. We're also going to sue, throw in there the White Plains Pinkertons on that same account, that they don't give receipts. The Southern District of New York, Foley Square, gives receipts. If they take a recorder or anything else, they give you a receipt for it. The Westchester County Supreme Court and the Westchester County Court gives you a receipt. If they take your property while you're in the courthouse, they give you a receipt. Riverhead gives you a receipt if they take your property. There is just no excuse in the world to take a piece of personal property and not give a person a receipt for it. That is it's just stupid. It's demented. So we're going to get sued on that account. The marshal is going to get sued for not doing anything. All John Does 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are going to get sued because they allowed this to happen. As I say, I want those 4 people who are in the vestibule of the United States District Court, Uniondale, on February the 18th to come forward and present their testimony and be witnesses. And what was I going into the courthouse for? I had 2 Cablevision suits. One is a brand new one, the Glendora shareholder versus the board of director of Cablevision, and Charles Dolan and James Dolan and Tata and Quinn and the management of Cablevision. And the other one was a brand new lawsuit against Cablevision, and it was called Glendora versus Sullivan. And this is about staying my trial, robbing me of my trial and robbing me of due process. So I wanted to file that suit and file my application for informed pauperage, hand in my civil cover sheet, and they will make out the summons. The clerk will make out the summons. So that's what I wanted to do in the courthouse, and these thugs prevented me from doing that. Their thug behavior prevented me from doing that. So we called all around, and Department of Social Services wouldn't help us. Elder abuse, senior citizens wouldn't help us. The second precinct wouldn't help us. The third precinct wouldn't help us. Nobody seemed to know which precinct it was. It turned out to be the first precinct, which is in Baldwin. The district attorney wouldn't help us. The New York State attorney general, the line was busy, and the U.S. attorney wouldn't help us, and the FBI wouldn't help us. Isn't that great? You don't have any protection, folks. You just don't have any protection against people who beat you up, thugs who beat you up, and goons. You just don't have any protection. So we called around, and then finally I showed you the bruises and their development from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, Franklin and I went to Baldwin to the first precinct, and we congratulate them from word 1 to the final word. They did a good job. McAllister was on the desk, and Officer Tony Doherty heard the information and then made out the form. There's a form they make out, and then they make out a statement, and she wrote the statement. I would have preferred to have written my own, but she did a good job, and told the story. We're on to the second page. Signed it, and I said it was true. And Franklin gave the story, and she wrote that out too, and so therefore Franklin's wasn't quite as long. I said, and Franklin said, that we want this Kenny arrested. His last name is Millworm, and it's a very unusual name, but I checked very carefully when I heard it, and I said, you mean worm? Yes. And so we want him arrested for assault. In my case, it's assault because I had multiple injuries. in Franklin's case, it's a harassment. Although there was injury to the soft tissue when he got hit in the face and knocked down, his is going to be harassment. And so it's been turned over to the detectives. My favorite detective has moved from that precinct, I'm sorry to say, gone up to the 3rd, but then he's been promoted to sergeant, so congratulations, but I would like to have had him take care of it. His name is John Flanagan. I've known him for years from the Scott Lord case, which started this whole thing out in Long Island. The Department of Consumer Affairs not protecting your consumers. And my reporting that on TV and then trying to solicitously taking care of the agencies whose bad record was being reported every Friday night on TV, and took the program. This is how this all started, and that goes way, way back to I started on Scott, ripped off by Scott Lord in 1986. I chased him for 8 years, and I finally got paid. He went bankrupt. We got 80 cents on the dollar, which is phenomenal, and it was only through very, very hard work and vigilance and watchdogging that it happened. So that's how the whole thing happened. That's how Detective Flanagan. So he's a sergeant now, and I congratulate him for that. Anyway, Doherty was terrific, and Doherty took me upstairs, and another detective, who was not going to be my detective, came out with a Polaroid camera and took the pictures. And his name was Katkanis, or something like that. But anyway, he was very pleasant and blonde and good looking, and he took good pictures. I did show him the picture, the other, because this one was this one, the one here. Ow! It just dominated the whole scene, and I didn't really discover these wounds under this arm, and then the 4 fingerprints on the arm here. I didn't understand that. 4 fingerprints, I didn't see those until after we'd been to the 1st precinct. But we had a good time in Baldwin. Ice cream cones were being sold for, we got 2 for 83 cents with sprinkles. So I'm very pleased by that. I haven't heard from the detective. A reporter from Newsday had heard about it. I'd like to knock the reporter off. And then the reporter all of a sudden disappeared, but we left the entire scene on her recorder. Pat and last name is W and has a lot of syllables. But from her again, and that's kind of stupid. What else? We left the building. A cruiser had driven, and a policeman had come to the door. I felt bad. I mean, I just didn't feel good. I didn't feel enough to talk to him, and I had to get over to Hicksville and start the editing around 10:30. So, I didn't report to him, but he was very nice. His badge number was 68, and his patrol car was 103. First step on that is to make a list of who to sue, actually whom to sue, but WHOOSOO, who to sue. And it will include the CEO of Pinkerton, headquartered in Los Angeles, and it will include the chairman, and it certainly will include those marshals for somebody not getting a receipt. Imagine all that, starting over receipt. There just was no for that, and for closing the court, not letting a person go into the court and do her business. It will be all of the John Does, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the Kinney John Doe, the Kinney Pinkerton. White Plains, because they won't give a receipt. Those Pinkertons who work for the Plains Deputy Marshal, and the Marshal down in Brooklyn. They're going to have a by the President of the United States. And we will tell the President of the United States about this too. I think it has to be brought in the United States Court, the Eastern District, because of my address there, and because that's where it happened. I think it could be brought in the Southern District. In the Southern District, White Plains. It could be. The file on it is already 31 pages. The number of hours that it has taken is grotesque already, something like 40 hours. That's a whole working. The costs on it are something like $20 for all the and so Wednesday, after editing tomorrow, Wednesday, I sit down and write the complaint. Ginny Cat, is that you? Come on over, Ginny Cat. Why don't you bring Ginny Cat over?
Ginny.
Yeah, pick her up and bring her over. Over here. Peoples would like to see you, little gray cat. Cat. Can you put her up? Take those. That's the Ginny Gray Cat. Yes. Thank you. Goodbye, Franklin. Vision report through and through. It should be seen by the people in the Woodbury system or the people in the Hauppauge system. I'm afraid that this report is going to land up on Continental Cable TV owned by US West on Saturday, March 1st. And that's too bad. And maybe a copy of it will end up in Manhattan. That's good. And it's good for people to know about this brutality, unnecessary and totally incompetent people who are working for the United States Marshal Service. And certainly I'm going to tell them about it, if not sue them. So I just have to go on with it and tell it to you. Well, since this is a Cablevision report, we must go on with it. I received the minutes from the Cablevision derivative action where Sandler Associates and about 25 other defendants were caught red-handed on inside information and doing trading and benefited something like way over $2 million. And a lawsuit was brought by Margaret Gwadzinski. She told Cablevision about it, and you know how Cablevision is, you know how the management of Cablevision is. They didn't lift a finger to do anything about it, and this would mean something like $2.5 million to the shareholders. But that's the, what have I told you about the management of Cablevision? Ignorant and arrogant. Any cable operator is. And so Margaret brought this suit as a derivative action. When you tell the management about it and they don't do anything about it, then a shareholder can go out and bring the suit in behalf of all the other shareholders. And so I went down and argued, as you know, on February 7th that I did not think that the lawyer should get $400,000, and the lawyer ended up getting $250,000. I have the minutes on that. The judge ordered that Cablevision should buy the minutes for me, and I read the minutes. I would like to read them to you. But there's just too much going on to make a full and plenary report of this. But I have the minutes. They can't be read to you because it'll take too long. And then I got Judge Stein's decision. And Judge Stein, like all of those things, said that the settlement meant that nobody could ever bring suit again, and the heirs of any of the people could not be sued, and so forth. They took away all your rights. And I'd already made a Rule 60B 59E motion to alter the judgment or to amend the judgment or for relief from the judgment. And I haven't heard from that. But when that order came violating everybody's rights, that made me see red, and I appealed it. I filed my notice of appeal, or it is going to be filed now. That's where Franklin was leaving now, to go to the United States District Court and file it. So there's a notice of appeal on the derivative action which awarded the attorney $250,000, gave Cablevision $850,000 that they didn't lift a finger to get, gave me nothing. I don't know how much Margaret's going to get out of it. She's the plaintiff, and so that's where the matter stands. I got out a mailing to the Glendora Phalanx of shareholders. There's about 8 or 10 of us who own stock in Cablevision, and I got a letter out to them telling them that Hempstead is going to be up for renewal, cable TV franchise, in April. So is Oyster Bay, and I believe Long Beach, the city of Long Beach. We've got to find out about the city of Glen Cove, and we've got to find out about the town of North Hempstead. It's critical that we be there, and that we demand the following: our own public access channel, no more share telecare. It's critical that we be there to see the new franchise and to critique it and to scrutinize it. It is critical that we make sure that there's going to be a public meeting on this. It is critical that we point out to them that Cablevision is in violation of state law when state law, New York Code, Title 19, Section 595.1 says that any cable operator with over 21 channels has to provide a full-time designated public access channel. Cablevision is in violation of that law, and yet they say that they are in compliance with all federal, state, and municipal requirements. They are not. So we have a lot of work to do there. Both the Glendora Phalanx and all of you other public access producers. We've got to take care of this. What else is going on? Cablevision is in the city court of the city of Yonkers unless the record on appeal has been sent to the appellate term of the 9th and 10th Judicial District, which is headquartered in Mineola under Andrew DiPaolo. And the two judges that we know there are Collins and Gracia, and DiPaolo, 3. And that is because Franklin gave Dolan, Tata, Quinn et al. 5 defendants, gave each of them $70, totaling $350 for, it's Rule 45, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. You get $45 a day. Now, what do you get a day? $40 a day to go to court and testify and be a witness. You get $40 a day for that, plus you get your travel. And we gave them $30 to travel from Woodbury to White Plains. When the trial was stayed on February the 28th, which was a very crooked thing to do, and still stands crooked and hasn't been corrected. When the trial was stayed, and they didn't have to come, they should have returned the $350 to Franklin, but instead they kept it. Billionaires kept it. These are the people who are buying the rest of Madison Square Garden. That's how cheap they are. They kept the $350 instead of returning it to Franklin, and now they're collecting statutory 9% interest on this $350. So that's where they stand on the lowest court. They are in the United States Court of Appeals because Bryant stayed the trial a second time. I have them in the United States Supreme Court because Bryant stayed the trial the first time and denied me due process. We have the Cablevision shareholder action just filed in the Eastern District and should be being served now by the U.S. Marshal. And then we have the Cablevision Glendora versus Sullivan, where the appellate division denied me due process and therefore I can't appeal the decision of Silverman over in the Westchester Supreme Court. And Bryant says that unless I appeal it, I don't get a trial, which is all very screwy and all very crooked and all very weird. And obviously a sham and a masquerade, and obviously traitorship to America. So so there's 2 Cablevision suits in the Eastern District. There's one in the United States District Court, there's one in the Cablevision suit in the United States Court of Appeals, and there's one in the United States Supreme Court. And there's one in the Yonkers Court, so I have them in 6 courts. What else? The stats. There has been no time to file and paginate and do the log and do the mailing on Cablevision this week, because their law breaking, their lying, and their covering up has been so profuse, there's been no chance to do much of anything else. The benefit of having added up the money and time Tolan, Tata, and Quinn have cost us the week of February 10th and the week of February 17th, I will estimate to you that they have cost us $9,000 in printing, postage, and rip-off court stenographer fees. They have cost us 4,200 hours time, and you take each hour and multiply it by $250 per hour, which is what these greedy, crooked lawyers get and bilk the public for in their antitrust and monopolistic way. That comes out to over $1 million in lawyer labor that we have had to do fighting these people with their law breaking, with their lying, and with their covering up. It's something like $1,050,000. 49 volumes of Dolan, Tata, Quinn, law breaking, lying, and covering up. 16,000 pages of traitorship to America. 6 file drawers. 3 years, 2 months. 320 TV programs, reports on TV, and about 360 mailings. It's District Courthouse at Uniondale. And here is the lawsuit. It has been filed in the very court where it happened. So we are going to put constitutional rights and truth in America to a great test here. This is the caption. Glendora, in behalf of herself and her husband Franklin, plaintiff, versus Bruiser Ken, a Pinkerton at the security checkpoint, United States District Courthouse, Uniondale, February 18, 1997, 9:25 a.m. to 9:40 a.m. John Doe 2, a second Pinkerton, at said location at said time. John Doe 3, a third Pinkerton at said location at said time. John Doe 4, a fourth person at said location at said time. John Doe 5, a fifth person at said location at said time. John Doe 6, a sixth person at said location at said time. John Doe 7, a seventh person at said location at said time. Deputy Marshal Quinn, Chief Deputy Marshal Larry Parker, Brooklyn. Chief Deputy Marshal Larry Nevins, White Plains. James P. McCloskey, Chairman of Pinkerton Security and Detective Services. Dennis B. Brown, President and CEO of Pinkerton Security and Detective Service. Defendants. Jury trial demanded. The box is reserved for the clerk, to whom this will be submitted tomorrow, Tuesday, March the 4th, 1997, Anno Domini. This is the complaint. the incident. 1. Glendora is 68 years old. She has been married to Franklin 42 years. He is 78 years old. On February 18, 1997, Tuesday, 9:25 a.m., Glendora and Franklin entered the United States District Court, Long Island Courthouse, Uniondale, New York. Glendora's purpose was to ask the clerk's office and the pro se clerk the status of Glendora shareholder versus the board of directors of Cablevision, and to file Glendora versus Sullivan. These are two Cablevision suits. So this suit grows out of the Cablevision suits, and the Cablevision suits grew out of the Scott Lord suits, where we had a home improvement contractor in Nassau County ripping off people left and right, ripping off me, and that started out in 1983. And as I say, of the Scott Lord cases, the Cablevision cases grew out of that. So these are all spin-offs. The Bruiser Ken case is a spin-off of the Cablevision cases, because we were going to court to file those, take care of those two new Cablevision cases. Glendora emptied the metal out of her pocket into the makeshift tray. 7 people were at the security desk in the lobby near the metal detector doorway, the metal detector surveyor belt. Glendora had put her black 3-ring binder, her plastic green folder, and her red file folder of Eastern District, New York papers onto the conveyor belt. Her microcassette recorder was taken out of the makeshift tray. She was told she could not take the recorder into the courthouse. We will have to keep it, quote unquote. Glendora asked for a receipt for the recorder, quote unquote. We don't give receipts. He was in a rage. You aren't going to get a receipt, quote unquote. He had a fierce look in his eyes, almost demented. He began saying we had to leave the courthouse. Glendora said, you can't close the court to us pursuant to U.S. Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 77, which says, district courts always open. The district court shall be deemed always open for the purpose of filing any pleading or other proper paper, of issuing and returning MESNE and final process, and of making and directing all interlocutory motions, orders, and rules. The district court shall be deemed always open for the purpose of. Ken began to make moves against Glendora. The others tried to restrain him. Glendora saw Ken force smiles onto his face to control himself. Glendora was standing under the door of the metal detector, facing the outdoors behind the conveyor belt. Other Pinkertons were trying to restrain Ken. Ken is about 50 years old, 190 pounds, 5'11", muscular, brownish hair, balding, no sideburns, hair cut straight across the top of the ears. As Glendora stood under the door of the metal detector as she faced the outdoors, Ken grabbed her from behind, his left hand under Glendora's left arm, his right arm under Glendora's right arm, and other body contact. Franklin, standing behind Glendora, came between Ken and Glendora to protect his wife, Glendora. Ken hauled off and socked Franklin, a 78-year-old man, on the cheek, and Franklin fell to the floor. Glendora ended up on the floor. Her hat ended up between the conveyor belt and the metal detector doorway. She had heard and felt the lining of her yellow jacket tear during the brutal attack upon her by Ken in an uncontrollable rage. She ended up on the floor. Glendora, badly bruised and muscularly strained and twisted in arms and legs, lay on the floor for some time. There was talk by the Pinkertons of calling an ambulance. The Pinkerton in a white shirt, 5 foot 10 inch, black hair, long crew cut, no blue coat, no shield, no plastic pocket, U.S. Marshal Service ID, helped Franklin up. Glendora, done in and exhausted, continued to lie on the floor. The Pinkerton in paragraph 11 started touching her and forcing her to get up, and Glendora said, "Get your hands off me." It was a bad scene, a United States District Courthouse with senior citizens lying on the floor, beaten up by a demented Pinkerton, Ken, unable to be brought to reason by 6 other Pinkertons who let it happen. Glendora got herself up, her possessions, black notebook, green plastic folder, red file folder with the civil cover sheet and the Informa Pauperis, and her audio tape recorder were nervously forced into her hands by these Pinkertons who knew they were in deep trouble and wanted to get the scene cleaned up. Forced into her hands by these Pinkertons who were anxious to get her out of the courthouse and clean up the scene. Back into her hands, Glendora turned on the recorder outside the door and started narrating the premises and a description of those present. We had asked 3 times for names of each, but they violated the rules in refusing to give their names. They violated the rules in refusing to give their names. Isn't this great stuff for America? Aren't these people great Americans? We got the bruiser's name by hearing him called by the name Ken by the others. For onlookers, black men and women watched the melee with great interest, start to finish 9:25A to 9:40A. No ambulance was called and no ambulance came. As we descended the concrete steps toward the parking lot, a policeman, shield number 68, patrol car plate 103, came toward us. He asked if we wanted to file charges. We wanted to, but we were lame and aching, bruised and battered, in an agitated mental state, and pressed with responsibilities that had to be executed starting this very minute, 9:40 a.m. Glendora would have liked to have just sat and rested. Glendora would have liked to have had the rest of an ambulance, but she has no money and no medical insurance. She is IFP, made that way by lawbreakers like Ken. Her fights for right, on same, lying lawyers, and corrupt judges. Lame, bruised, and battered, she had to press on and make it to Cablevision Hicksville to set up her video cameras to edit for half an hour for her 4 half-hour programs for TV, A Chat with Glendora, due to the cablecast this week and next. Additionally, a second public access producer was depending on her to help him edit at 11 a.m. and a third at 3 p.m. You have heard the expression, the show must go on. On the way to Hicksville from Uniondale, Franklin and Glendora put on the audio tape recorder, tape number 860, side 2, the facts and descriptions, the rights violated, the damages, and the relief to seek. At Cablevision 111 New South Road, Dominic, security guard, noted that Glendora's malaise and later heard the account and was infuriated by the brutality. He wanted us to go to the 2nd Precinct on Jericho Turnpike and Media Crossways, where Cablevision headquarters is located. Glendora could not, but Franklin did, since he passes the precinct every week to hand in the log to Charles F. Dolan at 1 Media Crossways. Officer Reeder, to whom Franklin reported the brutal bruiser Ken attacked, was deficient and derelict in his duty, and Frank went on his way. He just sloughed it off. He did nothing. The lameness, soreness, and muscular strain discomfort got worse as the day went on. Repeatedly bothersome was the upper right arm behind the biceps, just below the armpit, one of the places where Bruiser Ken brutally grabbed this 68-year-old female Glendora. Not until 9 p.m. did Glendora go to the ladies' room at Cablevision, take off her yellow jacket, navy vest, and blouse, pull down the t-shirt sleeve, and see what her right arm was so sore. There was a bruised area, 7 centimeters long, 4 centimeters wide. It was several shades of red and purple, and it was bumpily. There were about 3 to 4 swollen bumps. Last week we showed you videotapes of that, which were graphic. Her winter white hat had 3 long dirt marks from the brute force of Ken, whose last name we believe to be Millworm. But we have discovered it to confirm everything. Today, February the 27th, 1997, Thursday at 12:10 p.m., there is still one large bump within the Ken bruise area that is about 2 centimeters long, 1 centimeter wide. It is hard and very sore to the touch. There are actually 4 of them, and of course the 4 are the 4 fingers. There's also a bruise under the left arm from Ken's left hand. There are also 4 finger mark bruises on Glendora's right arm, just above the wrist where Bruiser Ken grabbed her arm to twist it behind her back. The lameness and muscular strain hurt more the next day, Wednesday, February the 19th. Glendora was examined by an MD. On February the 20th, 1997, Thursday, we called all around Nassau and Brooklyn to report the brutality. 2nd Precinct, 1st Precinct, 3rd Precinct, FBI, U.S. Attorney General Office, FBI Hicksville, FBI Manhattan, District Attorney, Senior Citizens, Elder Abuse, White Plains Chief Deputy Marshal Larry Nevins and Larry Parker, Chief Deputy Marshal, Eastern District, Brooklyn. By p.m. Thursday, Bruiser Ken had deprived us of 26 3/4 hours and $10 in telephone costs. Franklin told Larry Parker the entire story. She asked what he was going to do about it. He wasn't going to do anything about it. He said they would get a lawyer. At the scene, 9:35 a.m., February the 18th, 1997, Tuesday, Glendora asked to see the marshal. A man passing by said he was a marshal. Said man taunted, "You, quote, you want me to take you downstairs and lock you up in a cell? On what grounds?" Glendora would like to know. Because she asked for a receipt? For her property? "What is your name?" Glendora asked. "Quinn," said he. February the 21st, 1997, Friday, Glendora and Franklin went to Baldwin, the 1st Precinct, and Officer Doherty. 1. Listened to our statement. 2. Filled out a form for each of us. 3. Wrote out our statements. 4. Had us sign them. And 5. A detective took a picture of the biggest bruise, the one on the right upper arm. We told Officer Doherty we wanted Ken arrested, and we pressed criminal arrest for assault. A Pinkerton at Foley Square said on February 19, 97, Wednesday, that he knew Kenny and said his name is Millworm. Glendora wiggled her hand across the podium and said, "Worm?" Like that, and he said yes. These 7 men were not properly uniformed. Only 2 had a navy blazers. The others were either wearing just plain white shirts with no insignia or slouch clothes, and one was wearing a Notre Dame baseball cap. Jurisdiction. The United States District Court, Eastern District of New York, has venue over this action since the incident happened in its location and since plaintiff's address is 1395 New York Avenue, Route 110, Huntington Station, New York, 11746, 516-425-0304. The court has subject matter jurisdiction since a federal question has involved civil rights. The parties and their violations. Bruiser Ken violated the bodies of Franklin and Glendora. There was no need for the violent violation of our physical safety. There was no call to stop us from entering the courthouse, going to the clerk, conducting our business, and observing the courtrooms in action. Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 77, declares the courts must be open to the public. Bruiser Ken is mentally unstable and is a menace to the public. The other 6 at the desk and at the metal detector area violated our rights by not protecting us from the insane attacks by Bruiser Ken. Deputy Marshal Quinn violated his duty to us to protect us from Madman Ken and for threatening us with lockup when he had no grounds for saying, and for not providing the public with a receipt for property confiscated. Chief Deputy Marshal Larry Parker is wrong not to discipline Bruiser Ken for Ken's outrageous and uncalled for behavior and for keeping him on duty to endanger other innocent citizens. 2/25/97, Tuesday, 4:50 p.m., Franklin went to the Uniondale Courthouse to see the clerk, and this is a week later, and Bruiser Ken was on duty. He snooped through the file folder of 2 complaints, maybe looking for his name. Well, he does not have long to wait. Next time it will be there. Parker and his new boss, O'Flaherty, are at fault for not providing receipts for property held. So is Chief Deputy Larry Nevins at the White Plains United States District Court, 300 Quaropus, White Plains. The chairman and CEO of Pinkerton are at fault for failure to employ competent people and to allow mentally unstable and unqualified employees to beat up innocent, innocuous citizens, 68 years old, a female, and 78 years old. Franklin, allowing Bruiser Ken to slam a $150 recording instrument onto the desk. All defendants could have prevented the brutal abuse of these two senior citizens, totally unjustified. There was and never will be a meritorious defense for such Neanderthal, King Kong attacks. Courts exist to resolve disputes, not to manufacture them. Courts exist to resolve disputes, not to manufacture them. The bruises have been videotaped. The dismal record has been delineated on videotape and will be on 8 cable TV systems this week, the week of March 3rd, 1997, with graphics. Cablevision Nassau, Cablevision Riverhead, Time Warner Manhattan, TKR Rockland County, Continental, Terrytown, Ossining, and Peekskill. That's a huge signal. TCI Westchester, Cablevision Harrison, Portchester, Yorktown Cablevision, Yonkers Cablevision. And the graphics are Bruiser Ken beats up a 68-year-old woman and a 78-year-old man because they asked for a receipt. Programs number 2284, A Chat with Glendora, and number 2285, and Newsday called. Glendora has a right to bring a recorder into a courthouse and record what she wants. The law in New York State is that any conversation can be recorded as long as one person knows it is being recorded. Glendora has a proposal before the Federal Judicial Conference in Washington, D.C., the Committee on Rules and Procedure, to change the unfair intrusion into this private right. It is being presented May 1st, 1997, Anno Domini, Glendora's birthday. Rule 8, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. Rule 8 says, Rule 2 says, one form of action only shall be in the district courts for the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. That's a civil action. Rule 1 says, just, speedy, and inexpensive. Rule 3 says, a civil action is commenced by filing a complaint. And Rule 8 says, jurisdiction, statement of the claim, and demand for judgment for the relief. And here is a picture. Hi, Katie. Going up and see the people. They love you. There's Rule 8, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. In this paper is, if this paper is deficient in any way, Glendora invokes pro se leniency. Add to this, she still is not feeling well following the bludgeoning by Bruiser Ken. At this writing, March the 1st, 1997, Saturday, 9:46 a.m. Anno Domini, Glendora still has lumps, it's 4, on her upper right arm behind the biceps where the biggest bruise was inflicted. The lumps vary from 2 centimeters to 1 centimeter, and they are very sore to the touch. February the 28th, 1997, Friday at 12:45 p.m., Glendora talked to Tommy Pinkerton at the lectern at 40 Foley Square. He brought up the Uniondale incident. He said, I was told, quote, you were trying to sneak a recorder into the court. And Glendora said, quote, unquote, that is a lie. And she told him the truth. In room 1702, counter clerk, U.S. Court of Appeal asked Glendora about the incident. The news travels fast. Glendora told him and about the lawsuit. And the counter clerk asked Glendora to tell one of the U.S. Court Appeals case managers. And Glendora did. Glendora fully expects Bruiser Ken to lie along with his particeps criminis accomplices. They are that type of person. It is the same lack of manhood all 7 Pinkertons exhibited during the incident. Glendora declares that every one of these defendants is a traitor to America and violates Franklin's D-Day to VE Day, Normandy to Weimar. It's a great way to treat a veteran. Glendora will investigate extensively the record of Bruiser Ken. Everywhere we will investigate him. And these are the copying instructions. The original goes to the clerk, a copy goes to the clerk, and we're going to send one to the Pinkertons' CEO and chief and chairman. These are the costs. They are in Encino, California, 15,910 Ventura Boulevard, Suite 9A. Telephone number is 818-380-8800. And here is a synopsis. Glendora asked for a receipt for her audio tape recorder. She was refused a receipt and refused an explanation. She was prevented entry to the court in violation of Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 77, to conduct her business. She was brutalized by a man mentally incompetent to hold a job, received 6 bruises, multiple muscle strain, both arms and legs. The lining of her yellow jacket was torn by Bruiser Ken. Her white hat was made dirty by Bruiser Ken. Bruiser Ken slammed Glendora's recorder on the table. It's a $150 electronic instrument. Yes, oh, such nice kitty. Yeah. Nice kitty. Nice kitty. Yeah, this wanted a little loving, right? Katie cat. Anyway, this electronic instrument was $150. Bruiser Ken punched 78-year-old husband Franklin in the jaw, and Franklin fell to the floor, and Glendora is 68 years old. And this is civil rights under color of state. Glendora's and Franklin's civil rights under 42, Title 42 of the United States Code, Section 1983, and also Section 1985, mercy. Heinously violated. Relief demanded. Wherefore, plaintiff Glendora, on behalf of herself and her husband, pleads this court grant her the following relief. A, immediate discharge of Bruiser Ken. Discharge of Bruiser Ken. With injunction, he be prohibited from holding any job, including security guard functions. B, restitution for damaged jacket, white hat, and tape recorder. $23 million compensatory and punitive damages. The cost of this action be taxed against the defendants. Any further relief that is just and proper. The abuse has cost us $38.97, 55 hours of our lives, and over 1 million ergs of emotional stress, physical pain, and intentional infliction of mental anguish. Dated, Huntington Station, New York, March 4th, 1997, nominee. In truth, Glendora, a chat with Glendora, and the address is given. Pursuant to Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rules 26 to 37, Glendora demands immediate discovery as per infra, plaintiff's interrogatories to discover identities and defendants. Pursuant to Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 33, the defendant shall answer under oath the following interrogatories within 30 days of service at the plaintiff's current address as indicated below. Identify any and all personnel who were on duty or otherwise present on such and such a date. That would be February 18th. And the state the name, badge number, and address where process may be served on any person identified above in Interrogatory 1. Provide the rank, years of service, age, height, weight, and ethnicity of each individual identified in Interrogatory 1. If any individual named in response to Interrogatory 1 is no longer employed as personnel, provide the date of and reason for the resignation, termination, dismissal, or separation. Also provide facts, you pound the law. If you know the facts, you pound the facts. And if you don't know either, you pound the table. The lawyer said to the judge, I want a new trial on the basis of new evidence. And the judge says, what's the new evidence? And the lawyer says, I just found out my client has another $3,000. The week of February the 27th, without filing a lawsuit against Cablevision. We have quite a few going. This is the most recent one that's in the Eastern District of the United States District Court. And it's about, well, it all started with Cablevision took my program off the TV and broke the state law and the federal law, and the state court said you have to put Glendora's program back on TV. No cable operator can exercise editorial control over public use of channel. And so naturally they did. And then Judge Silverman in the Westchester County Supreme Court did not give me damages and did not give me costs. So I appealed to the Appellate Division, Second Department, Supreme Court of the State of New York for costs and damages. They never gave me costs, they never gave me damages, but what they did do was to tell Judge Silverman to change his mind, get Glendora off of TV again. Well, Judge Silverman didn't change his mind exactly, but he said it was a matter for the Public Service Commission to decide. So the Appellate Division didn't get Glendora off of TV, which is their intent. They don't like all of the reports that I give you that are true. And then Judge Bryant for our arrest, counterclaim, Fifth Amendment, due process. Repeatedly, Thug Peter Grouper lied in a loud voice. She refused to cooperate. Quickly, Glendora corrected the lie with, I refuse to let my civil rights be violated. I have a right to remain silent. Counterclaim, malicious lie and damage to image. Glendora was pressured by bail bond's U.S. pretrial officer to sign a paper about a bond. She demurred. What would she know about the same, and how could she trust anybody at this point? Anyway, Glendora has no money for a bond, but she would not be released on her own recognizance without it. Counterclaim, more coercion, more deprivation of citizenship rights. Counterclaim, compensatory and punitive damages for robbing Glendora of her respect for the FBI, the U.S. Marshals, and the U.S. courthouses turned into U.S. brute houses. Counterclaim, restitution for this night's lost sleep. 9 p.m. to 11:20 p.m., 12:28 to 5:08. Glendora was up all night except for 1 hour writing this counterclaim that could have been written live while it was happening if the three goons had not stolen her pad and pen. She could have written it from prison, like a St. Paul epistle. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. This is page 26. Now next week, folks, I'll try to read you from page 26 to the end, page 50. And the third part of this paper is my answer to Mildworm's lies, transcribed by Kwiatkowski. Unfortunately, I thought I could rewrite the caption, which is Glendora's answers to complaint, and then I forgot to put it back in again after I erased it. That's unfortunate, but it is an answer to the complaint. If a complaint is made against you, then you answer it. Under penalty of perjury, Glendora declares she writes you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. It claims that Thomas Kwiatkowski, where is any evidence by Kenneth Mildworm of any injuries inflicted? Mildworm is 50, 190 pounds, 5'11". Franklin is 149, scrawny, and 78. Glendora resisted physically Mildworm's baseless physical attacks on her. Glendora took all of the metal out of her pockets before she went through the detector, even though this is a violation of her civil rights and property rights. Mildworm lies that Glendora tried to sneak the recorder in. How does taking away somebody's audio tape recorder protect a federal judge? What does it protect a federal judge from? The exact time of 9:25 a.m. to 9:40 a.m. on February the 18th, 1997, Tuesday. Mildworm, paragraph 4 is misleading. Glendora did not have to be asked. She did it by reflex, having entered so many courthouses to fight for right. Paragraph 5 is a lie. Glendora emptied her pockets all at once before going through the metal detector. Then she realized it was the metal pins she was wearing on her yellow jacket lapels, so she took these off. A great inconvenience and annoyance to citizens. Mildworm, paragraph 6 is a lie. Glendora no such thing, and on a lie, Glendora is arrested. Search your conscience, Bruiser Ken, even if she did, and she did not. It is free speech. Mildworm does not tell you the truth, the whole truth, and the truth. He covers up that Glendora had a receipt and was refused. Her property was obtained without a receipt, an idiotic thing for any courthouse to allow. At that point, she did not proceed into the courthouse. It was a reasonable time after it was clear Glendora's recorder was to be taken with no receipt. Mildworm, paragraph 7 is a lie. The brute came up behind Glendora as Glendora is facing outdoors. See Glendora's account in her complaint, enclosed Glendora versus Bruiser Ken. Paragraph 8 by Mildworm is another lie. Glendora had long ago left the recorder in the grubby plastic basket. Mildworm had long ago slammed it down the desk across from the conveyor belt nearest the entrance. You aren't going to get a receipt, bellowed this unfit protector of federal judges. Never stated what Mildworm claims. He is making it up. Glendora said never. He had no authority to stop her. Mildworm writes that the defendant Glendora again stated in substance and in part that Mildworm had no authority to stop her. She then sat down on the ledge next to the metal detector, thereby blocking access into the courthouse. This is an out-and-out lie. Glendora never did any such thing. She was standing on the detector facing outdoors, waiting for clearance to go into the courthouse when she was brutally grabbed by Bruiser Ken Mildworm. He grabbed her from the back. Both bodies were facing the entrance outdoors. Either he lies or is demented, or he is both, plus incompetent to be, quote, protecting federal judges, unquote. Paragraph 8 is more lies. Mildworm then advised the defendant Glendora that he was going to remove her from the courthouse. Taking her arm, Mildworm raised her to her feet. She resisted, grabbing his left arm and pulling him down. That never happened. There was no such thing ever happened. He never raised Glendora to her feet. He caused her to land on the floor, prone, feet facing the door, outdoors. He lies that he knocked Glendora's hat and wig to the conveyor belt, that he tore the yellow jacket, and that he threw her off balance. As in his paragraph super, Mildworm lies by omission. He worms his way out of it. Infer, Mildworm and Kwiatkowski trapped themselves in their obvious lying. It was not ground. They said that I was lying on the ground. I was inside of the courthouse, lying on the floor. This was indoor on the floor, and it was really a fine scene for a United States courthouse strewn with bodies of senior citizens brutally attacked by a madman. Mildworm removed the defendant Buell, Franklin Buell, from his person, and in the process released the defendant Glendora. At that point, they both lay on the ground and were instructed not to move. No such thing ever happened. Out and out lies. Nobody told us not to move. We were told to move. The guilty Pinkertons wanted their mess cleaned up fast before anybody else saw it. After approximately 2 minutes, the defendants were allowed to stand and voluntarily left the house. That is not courthouse. That is not what happened at all. We were being pulled up and pushed out. Wherefore, your deponent respectfully requests that arrest warrants issue so that the defendants Glendora Buell and Franklin Buell may be dealt with according to the law. And this is a laugh. Bruiser Ken beats up a 68-year-old woman and a 78-year-old man, and the victims get arrested. No such arrest warrants ever should have been signed on the basis of hearsay. No evidence was produced, no witnesses were sworn, no testimony from the other side was given. This is rank denial of due process, and this caused Glendora and Franklin 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. equals 8 hours times 2 people, 16 hours of hell, and robbed us of our pristine record. It is traitorship to the United States of America. A grievous error was made. A judge has been lied to. Again, there is no declaration under penalty of perjury, no statement that the mild worm, or Kwiatkowski are telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Glendora's complaint being read on TV and submitted to the Uniondale clerk on March the 4th, 1997 Tuesday tells the truth. The whole truth and nothing but the truth. It is included next. So that's what I did. This is the thing that was read to you last week, and this is the caption, and here is the incident. And that whole incident was read to you, and it took a half an hour, and that was submitted to the Uniondale courthouse on March 4th, 1997, Tuesday. And also, you know, we went to the 1st Precinct in Baldwin and gave them the story. They took a picture of the bruise, and we asked that Kenneth H. Mildworm be arrested, be jailed, and be fined. There is no proof of service. This complaint by Kwiatkowski on Glendora, she never has been served. The court really has no jurisdiction, personal jurisdiction over Glendora or Franklin. They will never served with a copy of the complaint. In his house. He does. He runs the washing machine, the lawn mower, and the vacuum cleaner. And an archaeologist is a great person to be married to, girls. The older you get, the more interested he gets in you. And Bill got married so late in life that Medicare picked up 80% of the honeymoon. I'm just about giving you the report on police brutality personified by one Kenneth H. Mildworm. We want to thank all of the network, Richard Fenton, for going over to the Uniondale courthouse when he heard about it, when he heard about the captivity and the false arrest. And he went over there and he talked to those Pinkertons. And then he went over to the Assistant Attorney General over at Eastgate in Minneapolis, and he talked to Joseph Conley. And we want to thank Dr. Carling, we want to thank Carl Lancasera and Harvey Cash and Richard Einhorn. They all did magnificent work on behalf of justice and reform and legal reform and court reform and judge reform and certainly police reform in behalf of the now about Newsday. On February 8th, I remember, we had a call from a woman, a reporter named Pat, and the last name was W. It wasn't clear on the, it was a female Pat, and it wasn't clear on the recorder. We called back, her recorder lasted only 30 seconds, so we had to call back 7 times and told her the story of what brute Kenneth H. Mildworm had perpetrated that morning. There was nothing in the paper. But the minute that Kenneth Mildworm lies and Kwiatkowski lies, down and get a warrant for false arrest. The minute that happens, and it's all against us, next day. I had pretty well made up my mind that Newsday was going to print our side of the story, or there would be a new lawsuit, Glendora versus Newsday, for libel, for holding a person up to ridicule, for holding a person up as an object of contempt, and not giving the other person's side. The Clear Blue last night, or yesterday afternoon I should say, at 1:05 p.m., a woman named Carol Hernandez called Glendora and Franklin Buell. We talked 1 hour, and we told her what had happened, what had happened. And in spite of being a newspaper reporter, she couldn't help but say horrible. And then she said she would call back because she had to talk to other people. And surely enough, at 6:30, she did call back, and she says, your story will be in the paper tomorrow. That's today, Monday. And what is today? Today is March the 10th, 1997, Anno Domini. And Hari Cash called and said that the story was in. In the first story, which made us look so bad, when we had never had a chance to speak or to tell our side, there was a picture of Glendora, and that too was not right. If you're not going to tell the other side. What else is there to tell you? Yes, last night we finally called and told Detective Ray. We had left several phone call messages and never called back. This police brutality and this police cover-up. And he said, oh, well, we're not handling it anymore. The FBI is handling it. And I ask you again, why didn't the FBI handle it when we called and complained to the FBI in Manhattan and the FBI in Melrose? No. The FBI all of a sudden handled it so they could collude with the U.S. Marshals and the people to cover up the police brutality. Who's going to win this brutality? Who's going to win on it? Stay tuned. And myself with you. Last night I wrote out a notice for jury demand, and that was this morning. Folks, you must, when you file a complaint, up at the top you must say jury trial demanded. Even though this is a great constitutional right, and even though this is Rule 38 of Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, you still have to say jury trial demanded, because there is a time on it, and if you let it go, it falls to the judge to decide whether you're going to have a jury trial or not. So best put up that jury trial demanded. I put it up, but I'm sure about that notice this morning. What else is going on? And then came the TV reports. So I think that closes Glendora versus Bruiser Ken. You know, this is interesting because Wednesday I just had a hunch. Even though we were going to the Uniondale Courthouse the next day, Thursday, I had a hunch that you don't wait and you don't take a chance. And I mailed Glendora versus Bruiser Ken. That's the civil action. See, there's two actions. There's Glendora versus Bruiser Ken, which is civil action, and then there's the United States of America versus Glendora and Franklin Buell, all on false charges. There's two actions. But anyway, the civil action, Glendora versus Bruiser Ken, we did mail in Wednesday, late, at 5 p.m. And we talked to Alan Hirschfeld at the Uniondale Courthouse. He said he had received it and that it did have a number and that we could pick it up Tuesday. That would be tomorrow. I also asked Alan service on Glendora shareholder versus the management of Cablevision Systems Corporation, the board of directors. And he said it was in the hands of the U.S. Marshals and that it took him 2 months. Ridiculous. So we got to do. And also Glendora versus Sullivan, another Cablevision lawsuit. In fact, the most recent one. Now we will move on to the Cablevision report as to what happened the week of March 10th. Number one court, the lowest court, the Yonkers City Court. Cablevision can go out and buy half of ITT's share in Madison Square Garden, the Rangers, and the Knicks. But Cablevision can't pay back Franklin the $350 subpoena money that they stole. When the trial was stayed, Dolan Tata could have returned the money. The trial was stayed. They didn't have to come to White Plains and face a jury. So they should have returned the money. Cablevision came out and buy half of ITT's share in Madison Square Garden, the Knicks and Rangers, but they can't pay Glendora the $105 that the United States District Court has ordered them to pay for the audio tape that they requested from Glendora and she provided. And Cablevision can't pay Glendora's victory costs in Glendora versus Cofault Cablevision when Judge Silverman ruled that Glendora has a statutory right to be on TV and she must be returned to TV. Call your attention again, all of you people in Oyster Bay, the city of Long Beach, and the town of Hempstead, that your Cablevision franchises are up for renewal in April, and you've got to make sure that you have in there your right. Any cable company by state law with over 21 channels have a designated public access channel. We have not had that in Long Island. Dolan has been pulling the polyester over our eyes, and we must be sure that that is written into the franchise contract with Cablevision. No more share telecare. We want our own public access channel. So Oyster Bay, watch that very carefully. And Long Beach, watch that very carefully. And Hempstead, watch that very carefully. I think Huntington is by the boards now. And I don't know about North Hempstead. And then I got to find out about the city of Glen Cove. Those are things that we all got to work on, and work on very, very fast. And we must have a public meeting, and we must see the franchise as proposed. Moving on. Cablevision lawsuits. Well, there's one in the United States District Court still pending, and then I have Cablevision in the United States Court of Appeals. This is the third appeal against Bryant for robbing me of my trial the second time. And Bryant, Glendora versus Cablevision, is in the United States Supreme Court for robbing me of my trial the first time. What else is in the United States District Court? Glendora versus DePaulo, a case where a White Plains police officer said that Glendora went through a red light when she didn't. We have a landlord-tenant case that may be going on in the White Plains City Court. In the United States Supreme Court yesterday went Gelman, Glendora versus Michael Gelman, who is the producer for Live with Regis, who stole 2 VHS. Some telephone calls, in-calls to play for you. Now this first one you have to listen very hard. It took me 3 days before I realized who it was. It's Detective Ray of the 1st Precinct. And the call came in on Monday. Was it Monday? Yeah. Okay.
1 a.m. Wednesday, March 4th. Glendora, this is Tom Quintoni from the FBI. I found that out in
FBI.
Brooklyn this afternoon. I have to be here in court there, so we're going to have to cancel our meeting. Please.
FBI.
Accept my apologies. I'll try to get back with you tonight. You can reschedule something. Once again, please do not show up here. I will not be here, and we'll have to cancel, and then I'll get back with you so we can schedule. Again, Tom Quintoni from the FBI. I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but it was a message. 3:11:19 a.m. Wednesday, March 4th.
This is the Bruiser Ken file.
4:09 p.m. Wednesday. Glendora, this is Tom Quintoni calling. If you can get back to me, 516-750. That would be the meeting. I'd appreciate it if possible.
at a disposal of a lawyer, right, Penny Cat? Right, Penny Cat. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. Said the lawyer, "The bricks in the wall are loose. We have a great case against Mother Goose." And this is at Hofstra University, Uniondale, the United States Courthouse. This is March the 6th, 1997, Thursday. We got winds of about 30 miles per hour, gusts of wow, and there's a gust. That's the United States District Long Island Courthouse. Wind has got the camera. Wow. And this is where Bruiser Ken is allowed to beat up the public. Fade out. Few cashews.
You are a study that Uncle Gangsters should have its own with telecare. I don't always agree with what you say, but I do believe in that. That's it. It's 10:23 p.m. 7. This is Anthony Belmonte. The number's 939-084. And a couple weeks back myself, I had a problem with a couple of the court officers over there. They roughed me up a little bit. So if you want to give me a buzz back and we'll discuss it, because I'd like to court with you, okay? 939-0824, Anthony Belmonte. Bye-bye. Message 16:10:20 a.m. Saturday, March 8th.
Hi, I'm looking for Glendora Buell. My name is Caroline Burns. I'm a reporter with Newsday. I'd like to write about, or I am writing about federal charges that were brought against you. I'm calling at 4:05 on Thursday. You can reach me at 516-843-2768. I'd like to hear your version of what happened and your defense. And I'm probably writing the story for tomorrow, so I would need
Message 4:44 p.m.
Please call me when you get home.
Heading to Staples now to print Glendora's counterclaims, Glendora's application for a warrant, arrest warrant on Kenneth H. Mildworm, and Glendora's answer to the lies that he told in that so-called complaint, and Glendora's a copy of Glendora's record of the incident as incorporated in her complaint, her lawsuit against him. And that was submitted on March. What do you know about the speed of light? The professor said. And the student said, "Nothing, sir.